Gangs and violence, two issues typically associated with a large city like Omaha.
Did you ever think that there would be an issue of this sort in Columbus?
No, not in our small 24,000 people community. No, you never think anything like that is probably going to happen.
But Nebraska faces an issue with youth gang violence in smaller, more rural communities as well. Just north of the Platte and Loop River Junction lies the town of Columbus, population 22,000, a thriving small community with a big city problem that started almost 10 years ago.
Probably back in 2005, 6.
It began with assaults, burglaries, and graffiti around town, but soon escalated into more serious crime. In 2008, a 16-year-old shot and wounded 5 rival gang members in a trailer court on the northeast side of town. All survived, but it served as a big wake-up call in the community.
When the first drive-by shooting occurred, I think people decided that maybe we need to take a look at it more seriously.
If you haven't spent time in Columbus, you might not ever know the gang issue exists. But drive around the neighborhoods just south of downtown, and with a keen eye, you can see the visible marks of gangs' territory for yourself. Graffiti, or tagging as it's referred to, marks the sides of garages, doors, and houses. Most has been painted over by anti-gang members in town, but some still remains visible. As for why small-town Nebraska has a gang issue, there isn't just one reason. Columbus saw a large Latino immigrant population spike in the early 90s.
And if you think about it, those were the families that were coming here to work. And because of that, there was probably a little disparity and a feeling of not belonging. And so I think these kids were just looking for something to belong to.
Gilbert Maschmeyer, an officer with the Columbus Police Department, also sees where the violence comes from.
We had stories where 7th graders are moving in from Los Angeles, California, Phoenix, Arizona, Dallas, Texas, with stories of cousins being shot in the back because they wouldn't give up their starter jackets.
Now, Columbus police tell me that they've learned that gangs can spread to a 250-mile radius of where the gangs are centrally located. With Columbus being situated in the middle of other Nebraska communities that have a bigger gang issue, like Grand Island and Omaha, it makes sense that Columbus would have a gang issue of their own. The young age of gang members in Columbus is perhaps one of the most alarming aspects of the problem. Kids are recruited from the smaller gangs here and get involved with bigger gangs across the country. Officer Maschmeyer says he once arrested a young man who said he was from Los Angeles in Columbus for the sole purpose of recruiting.
We've found photographs, Polaroids of little 2-year-olds, wearing the colors and holding pistols.
Santiago Vasquez works for Columbus Public Schools and has also worked with anti-gang efforts in town. He sees the issue that kids face growing up here firsthand.
Some of the attitudes that are out there is parents, they want to hide and they want to be unnoticed because some of them might be undocumented and they don't want to bring the attention of law enforcement or officials.
To fight the issue, the Columbus community started a coalition entitled T4C, or Time for a Change. ARP and other community leaders wrote a grant and received funding from the state of Nebraska to help get kids off the gang track and keep them in more positive activities. Organizers looked to other cities like Omaha and modeled their programs after ones in place there.
Kids would actually fill up their free time with structured activities, positive activities. In participating in those, they would actually feel the reward of being involved in one of those activities and hopefully find something that interests them and hopefully sparks that interest in higher education, getting a career they like, and being involved in those things.
Columbus's police department recently hired several bilingual staff to talk with parents who might have trouble with their children but are not here legally.
And they reiterated that they're not here to necessarily get them in trouble, especially if they're not the ones committing the crime. If it's their child, they're trying to get the reins on and stuff like that.
But Columbus police say ultimately pressing criminal charges is the best way to eradicate the gang issue.
If kids were getting caught at certain crimes, obviously they went forward to the county attorney, and these kids were prosecuted pretty harshly.
And it's working. Violence and other gang crime numbers are down significantly.
Our numbers as far as assaults and stuff in the school systems are way down, way down. We still see some graffiti, but not as much as we used to. So I would like to think that we are making a difference, yes.
These kids and these families are here to stay. And we don't want any profiling going on in our community. We want everyone to feel welcome.
And Columbus police say though the issue isn't gone, it's much less of a problem than it was even just a few years ago. Reporting in Columbus, Nebraska for the Omaha News, I'm Tanner Kahler.